We take you now to the 18th plenary of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Forum on Tax Administration. Now, it heard that international tax collaboration is more critical than ever before, and this is largely due to the current geopolitical landscape. During the plenary, heads of tax administrations made a commitment to advance joint initiatives aimed at easing compliance pressures on taxpayers, as well as strengthening cross-border efforts to close the tax gap. For more on this, we're joined on the line by Jemaine Manikus, the CEO of Latita Africa. A very good afternoon to you. Good to have you with us on African Business. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Thami, and good afternoon to your viewers.
So what are the global tax administration trends that were highlighted at the OECD Forum on Tax Administrations? What are they, those ones that are most relevant for South Africa's current tax landscape?
I think the takeaway from what we've experienced from the OECD Forum that was hosted in Cape Town is that everything from administration is going to become more digital, real-time, and connected across the globe. Everything is moving to big data. So I think with everything that shifted with AI in particular, we're seeing that global players like the tax commissioner and the likes on the global scale is all looking at using AI as a tool to ensure that we are more compliant as a nation.
And how does this impact the rest of the continent? I mean, you mentioned interconnectedness across the globe. How does it bode for interconnectedness throughout the African continent?
I think the idea is that from a standpoint, they want us to be able to do everything in a more real-time fashion, opposed to doing everything from a historical point of view. So when we start doing transactions on the African continent into trading, where before they would require historic paperwork to classify when transactions were done, the idea behind this is that everything becomes more real time. So when I'm doing a transaction between here and Mozambique authorities are already informed of that transaction, not waiting for you to let them know when that had happened.
And how do we stand as far as infrastructure development is concerned? Is the technology at an advanced enough stage and accessible enough to all of the various stakeholders for this to become a possibility in the present?
I think in truth, South Africa is one of the more advanced on the international spectrum with our in the likes of our e-filing systems and those type of things already being at a very advanced stage compared to all our competitors or our partners out there. So I think the biggest challenges that we would need to be considerate of is our legacy systems. That is still very much a concern. It's the amount of people that we still require that have a certain skill set to enable us to get through certain processes. And obviously just the ensuring that the information that is being gathered is not just spat out from a point of AI, but also being analyzed from a point of what is real.
Let's focus a bit on the challenges that South Africa might be facing in integrating advanced digital tools into its compliance systems.
So again, I think we as South Africa has been very advanced in how we've approached things. I reiterate the legacy systems of what we needed to consider changing, the likes of how we integrate between us and the rest of the world with the OECD, trying to put together systems that allows all that level of integration. Now, South Africa being on the benchmark of some of this advanced technology, I think we're still ahead of the pace. So we are to still allow the rest of the world to catch up, I guess.
Now, how is the global expectation of enhanced tax transparency? I'm talking about the likes of automatic exchange of information and beneficial ownership disclosure. How is all of that affecting tax planning, specifically for South African multinationals?
I think what's important from that perspective is that when South Africa came off the grey listing, it was part of the requirement that we would obviously ensure that beneficial ownership became clearer. So when multinationals came through, they would structure things very, very in a way that makes it tax savvy. But it's becoming increasingly difficult if that structure is not intended for proper purpose, which means is if corporate companies out there is not structuring it, if corporate companies out there is purely trying to structure things for the aid of avoiding tax, they face a challenging, daunting task because all this data is now going to be available with immediate effect to the authorities, which is going to make it more and more challenging to get through certain processes.
You've highlighted the level of advancement of South Africa as far as a number of the instruments are concerned, but I wonder where the gaps are as far as South Africa's tax administration relative to OECD standards.
I think, again, from that perspective, we've looked at the beneficial ownership of transparency. There's a new asset class of scope, which looks at pulling in things like your cryptocurrency as part of those assets. So when we look at the global trends and where we need to be, I think it will be a full rollout of evolution at global minimum tax systems moving towards real-time and event-based models, AI-driven compliance, deeper integrated tax, anti-money laundering, and ESG agendas, pressures on domestic resource mobilization in low growth and high debt worlds. So at first, the global minimum tax will see evolution. South Africa has ready for as effective as incentives of investment story of our revenue. So what that means is transparency is going to be key.
Right. So what are the global trends that are currently emerging that South African policymakers ought to be anticipating in the coming years?
I think further enhancement of transparency, I think that's going to be key. How you structure it is going to be important, ensuring that you're not trying to evade money from the tax authorities, because the whole aim behind this agenda was to see how better they would be suited to be able to collect on that revenue that was due to them. So from that perspective, I think it's going to be important that from a future perspective, that we align with those trends, not only within South Africa, but within the global strand.
Jemaine Manikus, thank you so much for your insight this afternoon. Very much appreciated, sir.
Thank you very much, Thami.
Thank you. That's Jemaine Manikus. He's the CEO of Latita Africa.